Get ready to see Boy George like you've never before. The Culture Club frontman strips off his signature makeup and goes without his usual top hat for a scene in the band's powerful new music video for their single, Life, which was released off their album of the same name, their first in 19 years, in October. Get push notifications with news, features and more. Following you'll get the latest updates on this topic in your browser notifications. It's a celebration of recovery, of second chances, maybe more than second chances. We're talking, like, Cat Lives. George, 57, tells People exclusively of the video. I think this song, of all the songs that we've written recently, is the most representative of where I am in my life, and how I feel, and the kind of gratitude that I feel. It's the awareness of how good things are, and how things have changed. Ever since Culture Club's inception in 1981, George, whose real name is George O'Dowd, has been as famous for his experimental and androgynous style as he has been for his soulful voice. Though the video starts with variations of George's iconic looks, the final regular scene shows him without makeup and with tears rolling down his face as he sings, "When I don't know who I am, when I'm lost in you, when I'm under the water, I look to you, you know I do, and the water is gone." I think people have become quite familiar with this sort of image of me, and I like that image. I'm not bothered about that, but it's quite nice to show other things, he explains. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop wearing makeup, don't worry, Jeffree Star. But I think it's about being comfortable with who I am now. When George first saw that scene of himself crying, he says he gasped. "It made me feel a little aghast or a little unsettled, and I like that," he says. "I just thought, that's interesting. Because it's not necessarily how I want people to see me. But then it's okay, as well. I'm comfortable with it, and I think that's the difference, say, 20 years ago or 30 years ago. I would have been much more cautious about doing something like this." While George jokingly says he was thinking about Donald Trump when he was crying during the scene, he more seriously says he was trying to channel Sinead O'Connor from her music video for Nothing Compares to You. "I was definitely thinking about Sinead when I was stripped bare," he says. "The director said to me, 'Can you cry?' I was like, 'No. I've never been asked to cry.' I actually found it quite therapeutic, and I don't even really know what I was crying about. But I really enjoyed being vulnerable, and I felt like there was a kind of magic to the whole day of making the video." In his everyday life, George says he often goes without makeup. "I wish I was more like Dolly Parton," he says with a laugh. "A few years ago I worked with Dolly and I met her in London. I walked into one of our meetings in my civilian attire, and she said to me, 'You go out like that?' I was like, 'I do,' she said. 'Oh my God. I would be terrified of the paparazzis in the bushes.' I like the fact that I can be beautiful and then scruffy," he continues. "It makes those moments when you dress up more fun." When you're younger, I think the idea of bumping into someone when you weren't looking your best was quite horrific. But now, if somebody comes up to me in the street and I'm looking really plain, I always say, "If you're happy with this version of me, take a picture, go for it." It's great to contrast riding a train and not being noticed and then going to a red carpet event and being lavish with lots of attention and being photographed. I think it sits very well with my Gemini sensibilities because I'm always in two minds about what I think and what I feel. Boy George stars as the new face of Dior Home's spring campaign. George was only 21 years old when Culture Club took off after they performed "Do You Really Want to Hurt Me?" on the British music television program Top of the Pops in 1982. Culture Club, which, along with George, consists of band members Roy Hay and Mikey Craig, made waves as the first multiracial band with an openly gay frontman. Getting to a place where he's comfortable with himself and dealing with that in the public eye has been a process for George throughout the years. I'm not overly pleased with myself like most of the people on Instagram, but I'm happy to say that I'm at a point where I like who I am now, he says. I'm happy with who I've become. I think that's really what the song is also saying. You can achieve a lot with grace and charm. When he was younger, George says he was a bit more oblivious and he felt like he had this undeniable right to wear and say whatever he wanted. As you get older, I think you get more aware of how other people react to the things that you do, he says. Obviously, that is one of the sort of penalties of fame. At some point you do have to say, what I do makes a difference, what I say makes a difference, how I feel makes a difference. I'm also a Buddhist. We definitely believe that what you put out there can be manifest. Back in the late 80s, George's battle with drug addiction was covered frequently in the media as well as his subsequent arrests. Reaching this place in life, he says, is due to many turning points. I actually think that life is a kind of work in progress, and those turning points will keep coming, he says. Some of the bumps in my road and some of the wounds have been self-inflicted. They're things that I've done to myself, and that's a different sort of turning point. I wouldn't say that you get older and wiser just because you hang around. I think you have to make conscious decisions to change how you feel about things, how you see things, how you express who you are. Now, George has been sober for over a decade and credits his flawless skin as a combination of not drinking, clean eating and feeling good on the inside. The biggest improvement for me was not drinking, he says. Removing all of that sugar from my life was a really good move. I don't drink and I eat very clean. I eat a lot of vegetables and I think it's getting sleep, exercising and having fun. It's always a reflection of how you're feeling, in a funny sort of way. I feel good, so that sort of breathes into every aspect of my life. Boy George and Culture Club's life is out now.